Good morning. All right, May 9th, Friday. Yes, Friday. Thank goodness. So I have a few topics in mind this morning. I wanted to hash out a little bit. Um, One, I probably shouldn't do this, but I woke up this morning and browsed Facebook and came across a post from one of my cousins, and it showed a woman in an ice raid, where an ice raid came and separated her from her daughter and grandbaby. And some of the community had been tipped off and heard about it beforehand, and tried to help, protect and stop this from happening. And then ICE called the police, the local police, and the local police came and were on the side of ICE and helped detain and separate this woman to be deported. And I don't know, it kind of made the tone of my morning a little bit melancholy today, because that's one of the things that I don't want to see happening. Like, I personally, I don't know this lady, right? I don't know what she has or has not done. If her only crime is that she's here illegally, then I hope that she's being given some due process, right? I hope she's not being sent to a prison in a country she doesn't even belong in. Like, have some grace, have some mercy. Don't just send her to a prison. I don't know what's going to happen to this lady, and I really firmly believe that she shouldn't be just sent to a prison without any due process. It just seems so inhumane. Like, it doesn't feel like the right way to go about change. I'd love to know more. I'd love to know more about her. I'd love to know how long she's been here, like what she's been doing. Has she started or tried to make any steps towards becoming a citizen? Like, what efforts has she made? What efforts has she not made? I don't know. I'm frustrated with Trump's administration and their propaganda of, we're going for the worst of the worst, the criminals. And this seems to be an innocent woman just living her life. And who knows what's going to happen to her. Like, it's not okay. There needs to be more clarity about what's happening to these people, where they're going to go, how, why. It's just heartless. It's just heartless. Anyway, I think yesterday I was mentioning that I don't really care about immigration stuff, and I think what I really meant by that, just to clarify a little bit, is like, if they're here illegally and they're performing crime and they've been arrested and been in prisons and stuff, those are the people. Those are the people that I'm okay with deporting, and I'm mean, I still would prefer that they have due process, right? And I would want them to have the right to defend themselves, in court. But if, a court finds that they are guilty of being criminal or not, sure, deport them. And I guess if they're guilty of committing crimes or whatever, then sure, I guess you can deport them to a prison. I would like the crime to match the punishment. Like if the crime is really minor, like I don't necessarily want them thrown into a prison for life. Anyway, just a little bit of clarity. Another thought that I wanted to discuss today was Social Security. So again, I was still browsing Facebook, and somebody had posted a short video about Social Security and how it's a Ponzi scheme and whatnot. And you know what? My thoughts on Social Security are, one, I personally do not plan or expect it to exist by the time I retire. Like, I don't even factor Social Security payments into my retirement plans. I don't depend on it. I don't expect it. In theory, I think it's a nice idea. Honestly, like, if it had been run the way it was supposed to, it could have succeeded. I really think it could have. If you, as a government, actually implemented it the way it's supposed to, it would work. Meaning, if you're going to take a certain percentage of people's paychecks, whether they get to choose yes or no, right, then they need to do that for the entire amount of income. I'm aware of there being some sort of cap or limit of once you've earned past like $160,000 or something like that. Haven't fact-checked that number. But once you paid Social Security taxes at that point, above that you don't have to pay Social Security tax anymore. And that's part of the reason why I think it's failing, right? Because I get it that those who make more money than that, they don't want to pay into Social Security because they don't need it. They're making enough money, and they're probably frugal enough or savvy enough to set aside and invest for their own retirement, that continuing to pour tons of money into Social Security for them doesn't make any sense. I get that. But if you're a government and this program is meant to take care of all of its citizens, then I honestly think you just need to treat them all the same. You just need to, regardless of their income, you need to say, okay, this 5% is going out and into this thing, right? And that would be a big part of helping it be more fiscally responsible, right? Because it would be getting more revenue and input. The other thing is from what I understand, government has occasionally dipped into this money and used it to pay for other things. And that's a big problem, right? Like in theory, I think the Social Security program really could work. It really could. If you had enough people putting into it and you made it a consistent flat rate, uh, regardless of the income, right? Don't put a cap where it stops. And you left it alone to only do what it's supposed to. The time value of money, right? If it's invested in stock and the market and whatnot, historically it would grow. And at some point, if you're still putting in more than you have to take out to make payments to people, that money is going to grow exponentially eventually, right? And then you would have an excess, and you would just continue to let that grow to make sure to cover the needs of your people, right? The needs of the entire people. You're looking out for all of them. And that's what the program's for, right? The program it's not necessarily to take care of those who are already fiscally responsible enough to save for their own retirement. The point of Social Security is to help the poor, is to help the people who didn't have enough money to set aside and invest, or who couldn't or wouldn't. I don't know, but it's meant to protect your lower class people, right? The Social Security is supposed to, be able to provide everybody an opportunity to have a decent retirement, in my opinion. But the way it has been run and the way it's going, I doubt it'll exist. I don't plan on it. If it's there, I guess it'll be a bonus, whatever. But it's not being managed properly. A part of why I sincerely, truly believe that if it was managed correctly and was been given a flat rate across the board, and it was invested properly and wisely and taken care of, it would grow. It would. I was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for a long time, and I used to pay 10% of my income to tithing. And I know that this church gets $6 billion a year in interest from the funds they have. So people continue to pay tithing, right? And they only need like $3 billion to run their operational costs. Last time I checked, it's been a few years. So they get like an extra $3 billion in interest alone to continue to grow these funds. And part of why these funds have gotten so large and why it's such a big fund is because the fund, it's because it's coming from tithing, right? And the people who are managing it have the perspective of this is holy money, basically, right? They fundamentally believe this money is dedicated to God, God's church, God's purposes. And because it is tithing money, it is money willingly paid by their congregation, that they have a moral responsibility to ensure that it isn't spent erroneously. It isn't spent not in the name or service of God and good. And there's some arguments on whether or not they've succeeded. But for the most part, like, part of why that fund is so big is because they're like, well, we don't really know what to do with it. And so they invest it in grow and they save it for a rainy day. The second coming. Anyway, so, I mean, like, there's at least one example out there that if you were to treat the money given to you for a specific purpose, that it can grow. It really, really can. Now, I don't know all the spending needs and habits of the church. I don't know how much they spend or how much is tithing, how much is interest in this fund, but I know they've put in a lot of efforts to help and grow and maintain and manage that money responsibly. And if the government had people that viewed their Social Security input as like holy money, that it is sacred, it is consecrated, it is dedicated to one specific purpose, and you cannot for any other reason touch it, I think it could have been great. It could have been great. But it wasn't treated that way. So here we are.